Oh, good. Okay, my name is Jennifer Foyle. As Chelsea said, I work with the Northern Illinois University, and I work very closely with Patrick Campbell and John Barr and Julio Rodriguez with the Department of Commerce. Today, for this particular one, could you go to the agenda? For this particular webinar, we're going to do a review of what this NOFO is about, the Youth Apprenticeship NOFO. But then mostly it's going to be used to answer any kind of questions that you all may have for the application for this Youth NOFO. So I'm going to go over the basics about the Governor's Cabinet on Children and Youth. Patrick's going to talk about the benefits quickly of apprenticeship programs to businesses. John Barr is going to cover grant applications, and then we will open it up for question and answer. So if you go to the next slide. So the Governor's Cabinet on Children and Youth chose 3 projects last year to focus on. One of them being self-sufficiency, being the main goal of youth between the ages of 16 and 24. And they chose this mostly because youth unemployment in Illinois is way higher than the national average. And we want to give youth an opportunity to actually be on a career pathway than just finding one job, going from one job to the next. We actually want them to have skills to be self-sufficient is pretty much the goal. So the Governor's Cabinet chose the Apprenticeship Plus project as an avenue to be able to give those youth the skills that they need to be on a career pathway. And so the idea is that the youth will gain industry-recognized credentials and be able to fill positions in high-growth, high-demand occupations. Next slide. So the Illinois Apprenticeship Plus framework, this was developed. The Illinois Workforce Innovation Board has an apprenticeship committee that's made up of businesses, state agencies, community-based organizations, a lot of different entities that are represented on this committee. And we looked at apprenticeship that is done in other states, how they approach it. We looked at what we do currently in our state, and we decided to go upon this framework. Now, granted, this is still evolving, but we have different principles that kind of came to the top that we wanted to put the framework around, and one being employer engagement. Without employers, there is no apprenticeship. We want to build on what's working because we have some absolute great models within the state already with schools, with pre-apprenticeships, with registered apprenticeships, and then just with other non-registered like apprenticeships. So we want to build on what's working. Access and equity is we want it available for everyone so that normally when you think of an apprentice, you think of a white male. But we want that to change, and it's really not the case necessarily because we do have a lot of women and minorities that are represented, but we want to actually increase those numbers as well. And right now the average age of an apprentice, I believe in the state, is I think in the mid to late 30s, and we're really trying to use apprenticeship as a tool to bring younger people into a career pathway more quickly. Also, innovation and flexibility. Instead of just being rigid, saying apprenticeship, it looks like this and it must be like this and have a cookie-cutter structure, we wanted apprenticeship to be innovative and flexible so that it meets the needs of the actual businesses. And then, of course, accountability, because anybody could call themselves an apprenticeship program, but unless they're accountable, that they have certain measures in place, and we're ensuring that they're meeting the different aspects of an apprenticeship program, then we want them all to be accountable to that way. And so if you look under, towards the bottom, there's a small blue box, a box that's outlined in blue. So we wanted the 5 characteristics of our apprenticeship programs to have some kind of business involvement, have structured on-the-job training, related instruction that is not on the job, but it's separate, but it's the theory behind what they're doing. Rewards for skill gains, which means that as they start progressing in their knowledge and skills, that they will be able to be on some kind of progressive pay wage, so that it is a career, in fact, rather than a job. And then also that they're earning industry-recognized credentials. So as you see, we have pre-apprenticeship, which is usually like a prior to hire. It's they're not ready to be in a apprenticeship. They may need some basic skills beforehand. It could be anything from language skills, math skills, reading skills, or just basic technical skills that brings them up to a certain level so they can go into an apprenticeship program. We have youth apprenticeship, which is we're loosely defining as where they're working on that job, they're getting the related instruction, they're getting the mentor, they're getting credentials as they're going. We have registered apprenticeship. That's a DOL definition of registered apprenticeship. That's where we got the 5 different aspects, the business involvement, structured on-the-job training, et cetera. We got that from DOL's registered apprenticeship. And they're the standard model of what apprenticeship looks like. And they're registered with the U.S. Department of Labor. And then we have non-registered apprenticeship, but it's an industry-recognized credential where it looks like a registered apprenticeship in that they have a job, they have a mentor on the job, they're learning on that job, they've got related instruction, they're getting industry-recognized credentials, but yet it's not necessarily registered with the Department of Labor because perhaps it crosses different occupations. There could be many reasons why it's not registered. Next slide, please. I'm going to hand this over to Patrick now.
Okay. So the whole idea behind this opportunity is to address some of the problems and challenges that employers are facing. And we see this opportunity a way for us to incubate or help these projects develop and flourish. And the problems and challenges that it addresses for an employer are it can help to create a pipeline for your aging workforce. It can create interest for youth in one of the particular industries that we've identified in this. It also creates, that whole poaching myth. It creates loyalty, and it creates a credential that they're working towards, that they can take away with them should something happen to that employer at a later time. It sets that individual up for success in their future. And we're looking to expand the concepts. And the best way to expand these is to create these incubators so that we can get more and more employers creating new types of pilot projects for the youth to get interested in and participate in moving forward. Let's go to the next slide. So how do you get started? This is not just a sole source kind of a operation here, and we really want to encourage the partnerships and creating solutions for employers. So the employer does not need to create this notion of the grant, administer the grant, come up with all the solutions on this. They have one of the primary solutions. They have the occupation that they want to fill, and they have the actual job and the mentors that can facilitate the whole creation of these pilots. Where we want to move with this is partnering up with folks that can administer and assist in writing the grants. So I know we have some people participating on the call which we've talked to about this. And then the other partner in this would be the training institution. So that training institution would be the third partner that can make for a kind of a whole package for the new types of grants. We want to make sure that these don't just get stuck in traditional type of apprenticeship programs. although we will certainly entertain all of those, we also want people to try and think outside the box, because I'm running into a lot of questions that are coming out about this related to the traditional type of apprenticeship. And for these youth opportunities, that is really where I see that we can expand outside of the box more than some of the other opportunities that we have in our traditional type apprenticeships. And this is certainly a kind of a pet project for the state of Illinois, is expanding these apprenticeships and creating these new opportunities. There are a couple different things that we can do with this. We work on work-based learning, which is what we have listed here as on-the-job training. We have relevant instruction that is associated with that, and we can pay for those. And all of this is a reduction in the risk that an employer has to take on when they take on a new employee. So regardless of what the situation is, an employer, whenever they take on a new employee, is investing in their training. And so this is an opportunity for us to show that apprenticeships might be the next solution for you, and can move this to the next step for an employer. Our expected outcomes are that this will create interest for other youth to want to pipeline into your organization or this type of an apprenticeship program, and create more interest in this particular opportunity. And the end result is that everyone gets a credential in going through this by meeting the competencies that company needs in order to move forward. And I think I've already talked about
You did, about incubating and reducing financial risk. Yes.
All right.
So let's see, the next one. Yeah, so for this particular NOFO, we're targeting youth between the ages of 16 to 24 years old, and we're targeting opportunity youth. I didn't put that on there. But those that are disengaged, not necessarily in the school system right now, that are not in the school system, and they need to be re-engaged and back into the workforce.
Let me just say that is an opportunity for another partnership there, and that would be entities that work with these type of populations that could kind of screen and help figure out who might be the most appropriate for this.
And provide supportive services for
Yes,
them.
and one other thing I want to make sure I say is these do not have to be big projects. So a lot of people so far have asked me, well, we only need one apprentice, or we only need two apprentices maybe at the most. So how does that fit into this? We can group some of these as well. We can create partnerships so we can group some of these
like
kids
small,
together.
Yes, exactly. Or small businesses too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the number of pilots, we're looking at 2 to 3 per region, and we'll see the regions here in a second. We said average number of youth served 10 to 15. We'd be thrilled 10 to 15 per, but like Patrick was saying, we've heard that there may be an application from down southern Illinois that several businesses are going together because they only need 1 or 2.
Right.
So they're going in together, they're going to submit an application and perhaps maybe serve 5 at their particular one. Targeted industries, we'd like to see it in healthcare, manufacturing, IT, construction, or TDL, transportation, distribution, and logistics. Those are the 5 industries we've been focusing on. Although I kind of had heard rumblings of we might have submissions from different financial industries as well.
These target industries are to help focus what we'd like to focus on, but we would certainly hear and entertain other opportunities.
Funding available, most of the grants awarded will probably not exceed $350,000 per pilot. And then again, partnerships are key. Patrick has already talked about this, but when an application is submitted, We're pretty sure that it's not going to be from one person. Well, it'll be from one entity, but they're going to be partnering with one or more.
Can I say also that should employers be interested in this, then please send us an FAQ or a question on that you're very interested in this, but you just don't know who to partner with. So we can post that and we can help facilitate
Connect the dots.
Making the connections between the different partners that are necessary.
Good. Next slide. So here's some of the target populations that we're wanting to look at. This is a whole list. Again, we want the underserved populations on this particular NOFO, low income, people with disabilities, ex-offenders, homeless, long-term unemployed, even single parents. You can read the list. We're just trying to let you know who we're trying to get. Next slide. These are the regions we're focusing on. Southern region, the north central region is the Peoria, Bloomington, Normal area. And then also we have northeast region circled, but we're actually looking at Southern Cook County and Western Cook County, actually, more specifically for this particular one.
But we might pull kids from some of those other, some of the surrounding areas as well. So.
Yes. Next slide. So the application, it's already been posted. It's due very soon, April 17th. And the grants, we're anticipating to actually award the grants by May 31st. So therefore, you can get started immediately afterwards. The next slide, you'll see this in the application, but basically you're going to need an executive summary, a technical proposal. So you're going to tell us how this is going to be done, the applicant capacity, you're going to need to tell us about the need, document the need, the specific requirements or considerations, and what your plan is. We also want resumes of all of the key staff so we can see that you have the capacity to actually have a successful program. Have any memorandum of understandings in place so that we can see what the partnerships are, and then also you're going to have to submit a budget. And these will all be submitted via email no later than 5 p.m. on April 17th.
Let me also say that under the technical proposal part there, those things that are identified, if I were an employer, I'd be looking at that saying, I don't even know where to begin with that. I don't have the staff to do that. So again, we can help you. We can facilitate partnerships of folks that do this on a regular basis and can are interested in partnering and getting the youth apprenticeship get started.
Yes. All right. So, John Barr.
All right. So I'm gonna. Sorry about that. So I'm gonna just round out the slide deck here with just some points around the application, and would point out that many of you are aware that we did a full application webinar that went through all the kind of the technical aspects of this, and so hopefully this is just kind of a big picture review. But we are moving to a new process in the state of Illinois, a new system under the Grant Accountability and Transparency Act. And so anybody who applies for grant funds in Illinois has to be registered through grants.illinois.gov. There's a qualification process where we review, your organization's background to ensure that you're able to fulfill the terms of a state grant and to, so that we're good stewards of the public money. And this information, including the technical application information session, is posted on the program website at illinoisworknet.com /youth NOFO, and if you scroll down the page, you'll see, and you can listen to the hour and a half of some of the information that was highlighted today around kind of the idea of apprenticeship, big picture, that the state is trying to really invest more resources into apprenticeship. And as I close kind of this portion of the webinar today, really emphasize that although there is a pending deadline on April April 17th, that this is really seen as a starting point, and that's one of the purposes that we're having this webinar, is to really encourage you, if you are close to pulling a project together, to submit a project, put that technical proposal together. We want to work with you. If the funding can't work out for this specific round of funding, we want to see this as a starting point. Again, there will be other funding opportunities, but obviously we've got to live within deadlines and got to move forward with the projects that are ready to go. But again, that's the purpose of this, and we know that this information you've heard at the roundtables and other places, but we want to emphasize again some of those key points here. And all the information that we've talked about is located on the IllinoisWorkNet.com/YouthNOFO. You can download the application forms and all the information that you need there. Would also point out that there are many good technical resources for companies that are looking to go into apprenticeships, and there are links on the website for those resources as well. Anticipate also in the next several months that there will be additional apprenticeship live meetings that will go beyond just kind of the scope of funding. So just wanted to let you know that although that we're really focused on this application, and that this isn't just kind of the beginning and the end. This is a beginning. So with that, want to open it up to questions and answers. We know that we received a couple of questions that are, again, posted on the WorkNet site, and what we intend to do after this session is we'll compile any of these questions, and we'll post them on the website for anybody who perhaps couldn't join us today. So with that, we'll maybe Chelsea, if we can open the phone lines, and if anyone has any
your microphone has been turned on.
About the grant program, or about the apprenticeship initiative in general, this would be a good time to do that. And so let's see. Okay, looks like the first question is, how long is the program? And I think, generally speaking, we're looking for projects that are 12 to 18 months in duration.
Now, if it is like a pre-apprenticeship, it may be something as little as 9 weeks.
Right.
Or something.
Right.
But then that's feeding into something. We're anticipating that they have an idea of where that's feeding into.
And that would have to be demonstrated in the description of the grant, that it's going towards an actual apprenticeship program.
Right.
Or some other type of
right.
industry credential.
Right. So the bottom line is that this grant opportunity has a lot of flexibility. We can't, the absolute end would be 24 months of a project, but generally speaking, we're looking for projects in the range of 12 to 18 months. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Is someone typing?
I don't think so.
Because Chelsea just sent one that somebody had posted. It says, and so I want you guys to say.
Oh, here we go. Yep, go ahead.
The application we want to submit will provide professional development and supportive services to any career education program in the region. Is this enough to qualify for funding?
It will provide what?
The application we want to submit will provide professional development and supportive services to any career education program in the region. Is this enough to qualify for funding?
I would say that would be in combination with...
You got to probably a company or something, and an agency with your people. So, no. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I guess I thought somebody was asking something. No, I think that it would be necessary for that to be in combination. So that is one component that could be funded under a grant proposal for this, but it is just one component of it. So, and it is a very necessary component, especially when we're working with the youth. So we would want to talk about facilitating a partnership with someone that has the youth and someone that has, the training as well.
Right, right. And so I guess I would respond to the question also by indicating that if the activity falls within the Apprenticeship Plus framework, which is on the slide I just threw up, but also on page 3 of the application document, really discuss how the request or the funding request would support the information in that blue box, right? So the structured on the job training, related instruction, skills gain, rewards, business involvement. So if it fits within a larger project and all of those elements are included, right, then it's something that could be competitive. But if it was just,
but not as a standalone.
But as a standalone, I think that would be difficult to fund as a standalone. I think the key really is to make sure that you're looking at this framework and that you're looking at those core elements
as a package rather than just in funding grants that are individual elements.
Right, right.
Somebody, Steve Stewart asked, is it up to us to develop the context of the training? Yeah, we can't develop that for you. You need to come to the table with that. But once that's been established, let's use your word, in context with what the industry or where you want to train them to move towards, or the employment, or the connection to that, then we can, we're certainly open to frequently asked questions and, how we could facilitate additional partnerships, either through employers that are out there or whoever it might be.
I would probably also add that, if you look at, page 10 of the application document, that, we provide a lot of flexibility for you to design your program. And certainly, developing that in partnership with, the business placement, would fit pretty well within the model. But again, I think we're looking for you. We're looking to the field for opportunities that work, and we don't want to place restrictions on that. Other questions? Looks like some other typing questions. Okay, so it's, if we have a youth that is 22, can they qualify for the program? So if they are currently working, but then they would enter into a training program to work in a different pathway, right? So maybe they're at a job, they're just kind of paying the bills, right? But you want to get them on a career pathway into other training. In some cases, that is allowable. The funds, the youth would need to be WIOA eligible, right? So there may be some income restrictions, and we would need to, the youth, if they were employed, they would have to, bottom line, they would have to meet the WIOA eligibility criteria.
Right.
And we can, I think there is a link within the application that outlines.
There's a slide also in the slideshow that talks about the eligibility components that are necessary. Eileen said he isn't.
And we'll also post it on the FAQ, so we'll repost the link for the youth eligibility.
They're going to start building as they progress in their career, they get more.
So let me read the question. Eileen Setti, can you explain more about rewards for skill gains? We only have a 2-rung ladder with no pay increases in between.
Well, 2 rungs better than none.
Right.
So the idea is that if they're on now a career pathway, that as they progress on that career path, they will increase their earnings over the years.
Right.
So when you're first starting out, some apprenticeships don't get any increase in pay until they're completely finished and have all of the competencies. Every business decides how that increase in pay works, but the idea is that this training and having the industry-recognized credentials will allow this person to progress in a career that will give them progressive pay as they go.
Because the end result is a sustainable wage.
We want a sustainable wage, exactly. But even DOL, for their registered apprenticeship, allows a lot of flexibility how companies decide what the rewards for skill gains is. It's just the idea is that we want them to be self-sustaining and have credentials so that they can have a real career.
And in any kind of application, we would want that spelled out within that application, so what those rewards are, so it can be evaluated. Okay. Can you share with us those numbers? That's Steve, so. No, the numbers for what?
Yeah, see, we're not quite sure what numbers you're looking at. Are you looking at, is that follow-up on the eligibility question? Okay, so yes, we will, we'll go ahead and post, we will go ahead and post that on the FAQ, the link to youth eligibility and the, things that you need to show. One of the things that I would point out in the application, one of the things that were required for organizations that are not local workforce areas or providers, that that you are going to work with someone who does WIOA eligibility, right?
Oh, that's the local workforce
so your
partner.
local workforce partner is really key in this, because they're experts and they do this. They work with youth and they will enroll them in the system, and so that is a requirement of the application, because we are using the Federal Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act funds, and so these youth do need to be eligible. And so eligibility
it is not optional.
That's correct. That's right. It is required, and that is why that partnership with the local area or a local provider is absolutely key.
Right. And they can assist with the case management and ensuring that those vetted for your either employment or apprenticeship or training program are well suited for that.
Right. And one other comment that I would add to that is that, this is, as we've all mentioned, this is a starting point, and this is one funding stream. And, we have to follow the funding streams regulations, and it's very important that we do so. But what the overall or the overarching goal in Illinois is really to build apprenticeship as a whole, and as a whole, right? So it's not, we're not just limited to youth that fall within these criteria that we're I think as Julio always said, as we're rising all boats, right? So this is one area. This is an area where we can act immediately because we have access to a certain pool of statewide apprenticeship funds. and we can utilize that. But we're definitely interested, especially from our other workforce partners in community colleges or in education and others, for other opportunities that may not be as restrictive. But bottom line for this, we do need to ensure the youth WIOA eligibility.
And I think expanding the exposure to apprenticeships, where we've been told by a number of different youth and organizations that they just, a lot of these young folks don't know about all these apprenticeships. They know about standard programs, or they may be somewhat aware of standard programs, but they had no idea that there is these opportunities through these apprenticeship
Or that they're
programs.
WIOA eligible.
Yes, or that they're WIOA eligible, exactly. So I think it's our notion with this, or our idea with the incubation of these, is to expand the exposure to apprenticeships as well.
Okay. I don't see that we have anyone else typing. Are there any other questions or comments, concerns? Anyone from the panel want to chime in with anything as maybe we ask or make a call for final questions?
And then also, just to let you know, there's going to be some youth roundtables in each of the regions that Young Invincibles is heading up for us. We can actually post that in the FAQ that any service providers or youth that are interested that could come to. But if you don't know how to get access to these WIOA eligible youth, you can work with your local workforce area partners or local community-based organizations, or even contact us, because we're working with the state agencies who provide services to some of these people already, and perhaps we can help make those connections as well.
I would say one thing that we might want to do with this is, Chelsea, if you can post the link to Illinois WorkNet, that will help also in anyone that's out there connecting with their local workforce area. If they have additional questions. I also wanted to say, for those of you that may be thinking about the apprenticeship and had participated in our previous roundtables, we will also be having some, are we calling them roundtables?
Workshops next week.
We will be having workshops next week also to talk in greater detail about not just the youth apprenticeship opportunities, but other apprenticeship opportunities throughout the some other funding sources. So it may help you expand on some of your ideas that you already have. And those are on the 4th and the 5th.
In Chicago and in Springfield, they're in person.
Yes.
And we can post those in the FAQ as well.
It's on the 4th in Chicago and on the 5th in Springfield.
At 10 a.m., both of them.
Okay. Any other questions?
Okay, great. I think those links have also been put. Chelsea posted those links right here under the chat section, so you can refer to those. Otherwise, please go on to the FAQs, and we'll get a response to those as soon as possible. And thank you all very much for your time and attention, and let us know if we can answer or assist in any other way.
Thank you very much.